In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a cummerbund. So let's get rid of the jacket. The cummerbund has got pleats which go downwards. 1, 2, 3 pleats. And we're going to look at how we do that. And at the back, I know this dress is a bit too small for the dummy. We've got a beautiful big bow. Each one of the stems is 90 centimeters long. It's probably approximately a yard, so you get a really beautiful effect. And then it's simply sewn in the seam here on top of the dress. For the cummerbund, you have 3 pieces. You have got the cummerbund front, and then you have got the ties, and you've got an interlining. And it's very simple, this technique. It basically is where it says pleat, you pleat it down so it gets to this point here, like that, and another time, yeah, fairly simple. And that needs to be quite central here, then that is ironed. Now, this interlining sits on the inside, and you want to arrange it behind your pleats so that it sits right in the center. And when I close my cummerbund, then this will work perfectly with the seam that goes all the way across. So it will sit right in the center there. That's really important. And then the ties are obviously inserted into this, and you can make the ties longer. I think for an older girl that is quite important. You can always see that there is the length written onto the pattern piece, so you know exactly how long to make it, and all you do is you put your letter size or DIN A4 size paper next to it like that, so that you get these beautifully wide and long stems. Right, let's cut this out, this thing. If you are a bit like me, I really don't like pinning, and especially not when it's long lines. So all you have to do is place on something heavy. You might have weights, and then cutting from the left, you cut all the way around. Next, we're going to cut out our cummerbund front, but we also need to make sure that we snip where the dashed lines are so that we can properly pleat it. And then you're also going to cut out the interlining sash, of course. So let's get started. I have ironed my piece. I know I have my snips, and I take the first snip and I fold it onto the next snip, just like you saw when I showed you this on the pattern, and I iron it down. And that gives me the shape. And then I take the next snip and I place that on the next snip to that. And again, I have got my next pleat. I do that 3 times until I've got the 3 pleats in position. Make sure that they're really straight. And now on the back, I flip this over this piece. I put my interlining. That needs to be central. So I'm going to put 1 pin in here, and then I just flip it over, and I will position it properly just to make sure. And you can see it here. Those 3 pleats need to be central on it. Next, I'm going to sew my ties up. That's really very simple. All you have to do is start at the end here and sew all the way down. I would recommend, of course, that you reduce your stitch length when you get around the corner or for the tip, and that basically then makes it less likely to fray. So come down to the corner, put your needle down, turn the fabric, and go down the other side. And there you go. We cut this back a bit, turn it, and then give it a jolly good press. Wiggle the seam out with your hands like this. It's a rolling motion. Steam, and there you go. with all my beautiful ties gone, I now need to position them. So what I do is I put them next to my Cummerbund, and I want to marry up here my interlining, and then I put my pleats in so that it looks nice. The pleats again have to go down the same way as on the front Cummerbund. So put in one and then put the next one so that it ends where the interlining ends. Some people might want to gather this, that's also possible of course. And now we're going to do the other side. And see, make sure that it fits. And for that I'm just going to take the other tie, make sure that the tip goes the same way of course. And I can now put my pleat in. And the second pleat. And with that done, I can now attach them to the front of the Cummerbund. So turn them over and start where the interlining is on the other side. Put them on very straight, and then all we have to do is sew across there to fix them. Take your time, make sure it's in the right position. And on the other side as well. Always check. And we're good to go. So on the sewing machine, you don't want to use a 1 centimeter seam allowance. You want to use something a little bit less so that this stitch will not show when you finished your Cummerbund. Now we're going to fold it over so we have the right sides facing here, and you need to sew across the top, and you need to leave also a gap through which we then can turn the stems. That's really important. So there's my gap, and I'm now going to pull my stem through here so that I can now just simply sew across the top. I would have the seam allowance not apart here, but the seam allowance to one side. It doesn't matter which side you choose, any of the sides will do. Left or right. Pin it so that the Cummerbund ties really are in the corners, and then just simply stitch across, and this time we're doing a 1 centimeter seam allowance. And when I now pull this through, we're almost there. We've already got our Cummerbund together. So it's quite a simple technique, but if you don't do it right, of course it won't come out very well. So take your time with this, and you're getting a beautiful Cummerbund just like this. Now you also need to make sure that on the inside everything is straight, nothing is crumpled up before you start ironing it. And then we're going to do a stitch on the inside there just to make sure that the Cummerbund stays in position. And here I've ironed it, and I've also put a pin there. That's where I'm going to stitch. And sometimes that will even catch it at the back and close your Cummerbund, but you could just do that by hand with a few slip stitches and then just sew right in the corner there. That's also possible, and in the corner there, and then that will go nowhere and your Cummerbund is finished. And we're just stitching the Cummerbund straight onto the side seam. So now we're going to sew in the seam to attach the Cummerbund. You don't go all the way down, you start at the top and you only go, well, just to the end of the bodice, and it needs to be exact match to the color of your Cummerbund, otherwise that might show. But you can see here, if you pull it apart, it actually won't show. So this is the end. This is the entire dress. Of course, you can check out the other videos which show you how to amend the pattern, how to do the petticoat, and just create that dream dress.